Twisted here with the Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about Technomancy. I know that, relative to the time when it's recording, it's been a short while since I went ahead and did the Internet Has Agency video and talk, where I delved into the subject of, there being a built consciousness through interacting with the Internet in of itself, and you could say that process right there is, a technomancy sort of process. Technomantic, you could say, sort of process. But just a general idea of technomancy is what we're going to be gathering here today, and I guess showing some other examples of that. So, what exactly is technomancy? Well, it's pretty much the interaction of utilizing magic, or doing occult practices, trying to tap into the spiritual aspects of oneself and your environment through modern technology, such as a cell phone or a computer, some sort of computational device and such. Now, in regards to getting a little bit more of an elaborate sort of definition for it, there actually happens to be a website called Technomancy 101, and it actually has quite a bit of information on the subject. It's structured out like a written book, a written text. By my understanding, there isn't necessarily a actual physical hard copy or like a full-on PDF like floating around somewhere, available for sale or anything. But you can go onto the website, you can check it out yourself, and, go ahead and explore that. And plus, of course, save the web pages yourself if you wish to do so. The website is technomancy101.com for those interested in that. And on the website, it happens to have different applications that you can utilize for different technomantic sort of purposes, including I believe a sigil generator and a Zener test, and other things. Last time I went on there and checked out in full, but once again, technomancy101.com, and I just went on there to go ahead and pull a particular section of where it explains a little bit what technomancy means in the words of the author and curator of the website. So, as it states right here, the word technomancy is a neologism constructed from techno, which is Greek for skill, art, and craft, meaning relating to technology, and mancy as a suffix, so coming from the Greek manteia, divination, denoting a form of divination. Like necromancy, however, technomancy connotes, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I butchered that pronunciation, even though, so just like connotation, it's connotes. More than divining with technology. It could mean technology so advanced, it is indistinguishable from magic, a la Clarke's third law, e.g. the technomages of Babylon 5 and the technomancers of Mage the Ascension. Or it could mean a magic-like ability to control technology, as with the technomancers of Shadowrun. Speaking real quick on Shadowrun, at the time of this recording, it's about to be released on Game Pass for Xbox. 3 different sorts of Shadowrun titles. I don't know whether they're older ones, they're just getting reintroduced, or they're fresher ones, but, if you happen to have that and want to check out Shadowrun, I'd say go for it. I used to play one of the older Shadowrun games, and it was pretty fun back in the day. But to continue on with this, description, or it could mean a weird combination of magic and technology, such as GURPS, which is GURPS, Technomancer, and the Cybermages of Nightbane. For the purposes of Technomancy 101, Technomancy means performing acts of magic with modern technology, and people who practice technomancy are called technomancers. This is akin to techno-paganism, although pagan has religious connotations in addition to magical ones. Many pagans practice magic as part of their religion or spirituality. By magic, I mean the stuff that sorcerers, wizards, and witches get up to. Not legerdemain, I'm butchering that one right there, but pretty much he's referring to people who do like card magic, not tarot cards, not like, cartomancy, but like, sleight of hand sort of practices, street magicians, or like, say Chris Angel, or, someone who goes ahead and is doing performance magic on a stage. Although there are many modern technologies whose use in the magical arts may qualify as technomancy, Technomancy 101 focuses on computers and computational media because they are often implied in popular usage of the word technomancy and related words such as techno-shamanism, technosis, and technoetic, and because the computer is such a wonderfully versatile medium with which to explore the conjunction of magic and machine. Now, to go ahead and so one term that was actually utilized in that is technosis, and that is actually the name of a book that I remember sorting through different online texts and such that you can go ahead and check out for delving into technomancy itself. There's also another book called Cyber Magic, and if you go ahead and there's plenty of reading sources, especially I would say in more modern sort of grimoires and books out there, either physical books or ebooks, especially within the realm of chaos magic and utilizing, technology as a means of like, we don't need to go by these old sort of systems. We can go ahead and do whatever the hell we want for magical purposes. Like, utilize whatever sort of mediums. We don't have to go by a particular framework or particular method. That's kind of like the general ethos of chaos magic in of itself. So, and also there's a particular sort of reference to a sort of modern day bibliomancy from a book, which I will be getting into later on when we kind of talk about other things. So, right here, when I go ahead and I think about technomancy, right, I get reminded of when I went ahead and read the Hellblazer comic series, created by Alan Moore, who's actually known as a occultist and chaos magician in his own right. And there's a particular character who appears very early on in the original 300 issue run, and he's one of the friends of the main character, John Constantine, and his name is, I believe, Richie, if I do recall. Yeah, Richie Simpson. And pretty much he's kind of like a quantum magician, a techno mage. And the thing about him, his significant, thing that he does in the comic, for his, very brief amount of appearances, is that he happened to become a quote-unquote techno demon, or he was able to, through a sense of kind of like, astral projection, he was able to connect to and transmit his consciousness into the machine itself, into the internet, into the digital field, right? Kind of like, the transhumanistic sort of concept we see nowadays of, uploading your consciousness into the system, right? Either as a backup or as a primary mode of experiencing it, and all that sort of thing. I have my own particular perspectives on the pros and cons of that. I'm not necessarily going to get into that, however, at the present moment, because I have gone ahead and spoken about it on the Familiar Company podcast, episode 8, to an extent, and I likely will in the future, but to keep it rolling with technomancy in general, that is something that comes to mind when thinking about technomancy, like a sort of example of it. And I just want to say shout out to the whole Hellblazer comic series, the original run. Once again, that was created by Alan Moore. He's known for Watchmen and other sorts of things, and yeah, I definitely think it's worth checking out. But when I was going ahead and I got the inspiration, the impetus to go ahead and talk about the subject, I was on 4chan, right, on the X board, and it was a thread that was going on about a sort of creating different images with AI generation, like AI generation technology. And one of the things that was mentioned in that thread was, giving credit to Terry A. Davis. Now, for those who don't know who Terry A. Davis is, he is a now deceased prolific programmer, and he did have mental health issues that plagued him throughout his life, and it became kind of like a lolcow. He became a meme in his own right because of it. But, to utilize the words of a person who posted in the thread that brought the inspiration of this, he pioneered the idea of theurgy through computers and prayer with a technological instead of mental intermediary. Now, for the concept of theurgy, right? What exactly is theurgy? I'll just go ahead and reference Wikipedia for what theurgy implies. Not really all too difficult to comprehend in terms of the context of what we've already discussed here, but theurgy describes the practice of rituals, sometimes seen as magical in nature, performed with the intention of invoking the action or evoking the presence of one or more deities, especially with the goal of achieving kenosis, which is uniting with the divine and perfecting oneself. And the way that Terry A. Davis actually went ahead and tried to approach this was by building what he called Temple OS. So he pretty much took on the task of creating his own operating system by himself from scratch, which is very fucking impressive. And the purpose of it was, as the name implies, to go ahead and build a temple, not just any old temple, as prophesied, in the Bible, that there will be a third Temple Mount in Jerusalem and such. He was trying to construct that, but in the digital space, right? And, the OS itself is operational. It's complete. You can go ahead and check it out for yourself online. It's about 30-something gigabytes. And then, of course, you have to install the operating system. If it's something that you really take interest to, then I say go for it and check it out. But Terry A. Davis is one of those figures that really went ahead and you could say was definitely a techno mage in his own right, and becoming quite a bit of a meme for the stuff that he would say. Like, if you heard the term glowy, that's where that came from him. And just like being a meme because of his mental health issues and going on different sorts of out there rants and raves and such. And he once again met his end. I think it was like the late, I honestly can't remember when it was. It was at least 5 years ago, I believe. At least. At the time of this recording. At least. But yes, he went ahead and created Temple OS. And that, you could say, is a good example of substantial technomancy. Now, in the same sort of vein, being that I went ahead and found inspiration for recording this, by perusing 4chan, the meme magic that is done there and just in general is another form of technomancy. So, in that sort of sense, right, the, very infamous character of Pepe the Frog, and all the different sorts of esoteric and occult ties to Pepe at this point, being an avatar of Keck and such. I may go ahead and create a video, a talk down the line about meme magic itself to get a little bit more in depth, but just the general idea of spreading memes and spreading ideas and thoughts and like being able to interact and interface with people, whether it's by the use of Pepe or just any meme in general, like, you know, in digital transmission, and the idea of, you know, the energy ties and connections to these concepts, these ideas. That in of itself is technomancy in its own right. Now, in terms of what comes to my mind about what you can kind of say are like my own experiences that I could say are like technomantic in general, you know. I have like a couple anecdotes. One of them being what is observed from someone else's experience and analyzed. The other one is something that I noticed quite a while back. So let's start off with the first one about the other person. So there was this one girl that I knew, and she was kind of more so of an acquaintance, I would say, in terms of how well I knew her. She and I got along pretty well in terms of our interactions, but she was into magical, spiritual sort of stuff, and she happened to go ahead and get involved with a entity of the Goetia. She approached me and talked to me about it, said she wasn't doing good, you know, in her life, and I was like, oh, what's going on? What's wrong? And she pretty much stated that, oh, she got involved with one of the Goetic entities. I'm not going to say exactly who, or anything like that, just for the case of, like, you know, bringing power onto them. And that's not to say that working with any of the Goetia is necessarily a bad thing, but this is a situation that wasn't all too good for her. In terms of, like, it was very much take and not a two-way street of give and take and not respecting boundaries all too well. It was a rather abusive interaction from what I recall. Not only her saying, but what she was told by, you know, her boyfriend and another friend of hers, a female friend, talking to her about it. And they're kind of like more so like the right-hand path sort of folks, and weren't all too big in on it in general, but just generally speaking, like, it was a pretty toxic situation. But in any case, the actual technomantic sort of aspect that I want to share, pretty much, she went ahead and relayed not only to myself, but also to like a group voice chat of friends about how she went to take a shower one time, right? And, you know, she was on her computer before she did so, and I believe she had the thought to herself like, hey, look, you know, if you're there, go ahead and give me a sign or something of that nature. So she left her computer screen on. You know, there wasn't anything particular on it when she went and did so. Takes a shower. When she gets out of the shower, the particular sigil of this particular Goetic entity was there on the computer screen. And the thing about it is that when we heard that, we're like, oh, dang, that's crazy. Like, you know, that's pretty wild. But the thing about it that actually struck me and those who were in that voice chat was another friend, like someone who I was more so familiar with and could consider like a friend. He was very much into computer programming and coding and things of that nature, right? So we had gone ahead and asked, hey, look, do you happen to have the particular sigil of this entity? And the one friend who is, you know, a computer programmer went ahead and did, he actually took that file and he went and looked at the picture file, and he went ahead and looked at the coding elements of it. And he went ahead and got a copy of the exact same photo from Google to do a comparison. And what he happened to find, and he was actually pretty astonished when he went ahead and saw this for himself and explained it to the rest of us who are more so coding illiterate, that the actual structure and basis of the image that was sent to her while she was in the shower and she had saved on her computer was actually unnatural from what he was saying. It was something that through the logic and means of various coding languages, which he was proficient at quite a few, that it should not be presenting, at all. It should not be something that is readable whatsoever. That pretty much through the entities sending of that image, through the interaction of that manner imposing itself, it actually went ahead and changed the composition of it and left its own signature and footprint, as opposed to the image that was from Google and all that sort of thing. And that in of itself was like a damn, really sort of moment for not only myself but everyone there. Now, the other sort of like personal anecdote I want to share about Technomancy, and this was something that occurred for me that I honestly didn't even intend to do, but it just happened to occur however many years ago. Was okay. So before I go ahead and share, in having a cell phone and having the different technologies, I usually don't have my notifications on for things, whether it be, like say I get a call or a text or something like that. It's always on silent. My phone's always on silent. Don't have vibrations on. Don't have the ringer on. I'm just more so like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And, usually I have my phone within my general proximity and all that. So, if it's a call and I need to answer it, I'll pretty much see, oh, someone's calling on the screen. I don't need all the extra noise. But, I happen to remember that, with a older phone that I had, at some point, by means of intuition, by what I would say is symbiosis or like a harmonious relationship with the phone itself, for whatever reason, I was able to know when people were messaging me. Like, people, I would, have it in my pocket, or I would have it far away, but I would get this intuitive notion that, oh, I'm getting a message on my phone, or something of that nature, and I would go ahead and check my phone. Oh, yep, I'm getting it. And it's not like it was a particular sort of thing with one person. It was something that was happening for a period of time with just any message in general. Like, I would know, okay, I should check my phone. I'm probably getting a message or a call right now. Oh, boom, it's right there. And that's just something that has stuck with me for, ever since that actually occurred. So those are a couple sort of like personal anecdotes about, different manners of technomancy. Now, I guess the last, you could say, section of this that I want to go ahead and cover is like divination, in a technomantic sort of sense. So, once again, that Technomancy 101 site, it has different sorts of things such as, like, a Ouija board, Zener test, and stuff like that you can go ahead and utilize for different, divinatory purposes using technology. And divination in the context of Technomancy, right? Those sort of systems through a computational manner is done through RNG, random number generation. That's what RNG stands for. And pretty much you could say that divination in of itself, if you're using even a physical medium like an actual deck of cards or dice or dominoes or a pendulum or any sort of method like that, is actually a sort of existential, a physical, some sort of metaphysical sort of RNG, you could say, right? While it's not interfacing with computational sort of technology. If you look at it through the frame and the lens of numbers being the underlying basis of existence as we understand it, and if we kind of look at it through the modern day theory of, this world in existence is a simulation, then divination and interfacing with that is kind of like RNG in of itself. This is kind of like the whole chicken or the egg sort of debate right here. But yeah, now I alluded to it previously, and one example of like using divination in a technomantic sort of sense is modern day bibliomancy, and it comes from Damien Eccles' Angels and Archangels, this particular tidbit that I'm going to go ahead and read right now. Something that you can go ahead and do, and it utilizes search engines, to go ahead and do so. So let me just find the particular thing right here. Alright, here we go. This is the particular excerpt from his book. So, practice modern day bibliomancy. Let's start with the practice that people have been doing for thousands of years, mostly with holy books, namely the Bible and the Quran, but also with revered works of literature, in particular the epics of Homer and Virgil. Whenever they felt like they needed some divine guidance or a higher form of advice, they'd flip open the chosen text at random, place their finger down without looking, and glean some meaning from whatever word or passage their finger found. If you resonate with the texts mentioned above, or any others for that matter, feel free to adopt the following practice for them. But this modern take on bibliomancy employs the great unfolding text that most of us use all the time, the internet. So, here we go. Here's a step-by-step process, as stated in the book. 1. Consider the issue or topic you want assistance with. 2. Invoke an angel or archangel you either feel connected to or whom you think is appropriate to this particular issue. 3. Initiate a web search either by using keywords or employing a random content service. 4. See what comes up. Try not to offhandedly dismiss the results. I found that what arises when I employ this practice sometimes won't make sense for days or weeks. So if we're going by that particular step-by-step process of, hey, look, we're going to invoke an angel and then go search on a search engine to try to get some sort of, insight, spiritual knowledge, all that. An archangel that you can call on who is, reliable in that sort of sense and governs over divination. Not the only archangel, but, one of the more prominent ones who does is Uriel. One of the archangels of the four cardinal directions, one of the four main archangels that people usually utilize in a Western magical sort of sense. And for those who are already familiar with the channel, the subject of, you could say, video episode number 1, and also is the patron archangel of the channel, the Opener Sorcery in of itself. But yes, I definitely recommend utilizing Uriel and calling upon them if you are doing modern day bibliomancy. Now, granted, if you're going to go ahead and call upon a different intelligence, a different entity, by all means go ahead and do so. And there's plenty out there, whether it's, utilizing archangels or any of the Goetia, gods, goddesses, different elementals, so on and so forth, that can get the job done, if that is the route you wish to take. Now, also what comes to mind is there are many different sorts of online websites for doing tarot and other divinatory means, or crafting sigils and such. There's many different phone applications and also computer PC applications, executables that you can utilize for such means. And there's even bots on Discord you can go ahead and do for that sort of thing, namely Kitsunetsuki. I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. I can't remember the other one to actively utilize on servers that I'm usually in. And also there's the now defunct Helios that was a popular tarot bot, but that got discontinued because I guess whoever owned the project was unable to keep maintenance on it and or fund it if it needed funding. But I know that aside from divination itself, that one sort of like sigils, right? Or I could say like, a person who has made many sigils to pass around the internet. Like, I believe it started during the Tumblr days, and they've become very popularly used in the online magical community and spiritual communities, is by Wolf of Antimony, which he happens to have a large accessible Google Drive of damn near all the sigils that he's constructed. Now, if you go ahead and say you want a sigil for being able to fall asleep well, or a sigil to go ahead and invoke a particular sort of deity or entity, like, say of the Greek sense, like Persephone or Athena or Hades. There's some deity sigils for that, and if you type it in online, you'll probably be able to find a good chunk of them on Pinterest, or if you do it on Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever sort of search engine you use, you'll be able to find some of those. But he does in fact have a large Google Drive he constructed himself, where all these are made available, or at least most of them are. I will do my best to remember to include that in the description, as well as other sorts of different programs or different applications or websites that you could use as resources for different technomantic sort of purposes. Oh, I also want to go ahead and shout out something I use myself quite a bit. There's different applications, as I said, for doing technomancy or utilizing your devices. And for doing tarot readings, I primarily actually utilize a particular app called Galaxy Tarot. Now, from my understanding, it is not available on Apple. It is available on Android in the Play Store. Of course, you don't have to get it from the Play Store. You can get it, if you search .apk after, you put in the query in a search engine for Galaxy Tarot or any other sort of application. You can also use other sorts of things such as Aptoid, other marketplaces. But yes, Galaxy Tarot, I definitely recommend it. It's, aside from other sorts of online tarot bots or tarot websites, this one's a bit different in that instead of just clicking a button and saying, okay, the card's going to pop up, or say you're using a Discord bot and you type in the little prompt, whatever it may be, and something just regularly pops up. Galaxy Tarot actually allows you to simulate the experience of utilizing it for, saying, providing the reading yourself. It allows for more human interaction. So, in that sort of sense, you can shuffle the cards yourself, right? And in a sense, you can, cut the deck however you see fit, in terms of there being, a left, a center, and a right sort of quote-unquote pile that you can stack however you want. And then after that, you can choose to go ahead and go back to drawing. You can draw, or you can go back to shuffling a bit more if you so choose. But then, of course, the drawing element, and then you doing that however you see fit, and allowing for the intuitive aspect to play a part in the whole process. So that's what I utilize for my own tarot readings primarily, and that just being one example of that right there. And also, something that I should have mentioned immediately after, talking about the sigils that Wolf of Antimony has crafted, as well as just digitally generated or constructed sigils in all, is obviously with the general concept of sigils, you have to charge them. And one way that not only myself, but I know Lono has stated that he's done so as well, is charging sigils by playing video games, right? So the space that your head may get into while playing a video game, allowing a particular amount of focus to go into that, you can allot sort of that mental attention to the sigil that you have in fact crafted, whether it's an actual man-made sigil, like drawing it out, or through digital purposes and mediums. So, yeah, I think, honestly, I've covered just about all I want to cover on the subject itself. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, I will go ahead and culminate a good chunk of resources in the description, as best as I can remember, along with, uploading this video and such. And, yeah, I will hopefully make that available to you guys, and for you guys to go ahead and check out and do with it what you will. So, with all that said, this is Twisted with Open Sorcery, and stay frosty, Neguses. Peace.